this is a hopeful story, but because of the January 6th committee, um, Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee have Trump cornered, and Trump is finally running scared. Donald Trump missed his calling. He should have been an Adderall-stoked tour director on a spring break bus loaded with drunken college kids. And basically, remember the message he had typed out, be there, it will be wild. He would have been the obnoxious, he would have been the obnoxious prick that he is, but he would have been declawed, defanged, and destructive, but ultimately forgotten by history. Um, the the squatter Donald, being the rage-filled, narcissistic, power mongering loser prick that he is, cannot go gentle, genteel, or gentile into that good night. So he used his invisible ferryman given talent for a blatant hucksterism in a twisted Darth Vader moment on December 19th of 2020. He tweeted out a call to arms for a big protest in D.C. on January 6th, and he typed out, "Be there, it will be wild." If he had only thought to set up a turnstile and charge $25 for admission, it would have been in his warped Swiss cheese mind perfect. But nothing in this world is perfect, and Donald Trump is living proof of that every day that he sucks in air and expels noxious vapor. Now, Donald Trump, of course, was known before stumbling into his squadancy, mostly as a Hollywood sideshow poser who would show up in cameos as he did at Home Alone. That all changed when he took center stage in 2004 on the show The Apprentice. There he reached a convergence of his ego, his need for attention, and his relentless grifting. He went prime time in a reality show that was known for being long on a show and short on reality, and the only line he would ever have in that show was "You're fired." People ate it up, of course, and his timing was fortuitous. Frasier and before The Apprentice came along, we had the shows like Frasier and Friends that had anchored the Thursday night comedy lineup that began on NBC with Cheers in the 80s, and those shows eventually left. Trump took over a 9 p.m. time slot and did fine with it. Some thought his show was to be a parody, like a sketch on Saturday Night Live, but thus the inclusion on the Thursday night lineup. But his show wasn't comedy, it was tragedy. Don the Con took himself seriously, and his greatest con job was that he conned himself. His run as a squatter was both a revenge tour for Barack Obama slighting him at a White House Correspondents' Dinner, and as his former fixer Michael Cohen put it, the best infomercial in history to raise the profile of the Trump brand. No one was more surprised than Trump when he actually was installed as a dictating squatter. But after calling the White House a dump when he settled in, he gradually grew to love the seat of power in Pennsylvania Avenue. With many scandals and grifts later, he didn't want to give the seat up. Where The Apprentice gave him a taste of notoriety, the White House fed Trump's massive ego and narcissistic desires as only the office of his squatting can. He only cared for himself, Cohen warned us, and goddamn was Cohen right. He was also right in warning us that Trump wouldn't accept a peaceful transfer of power, which he didn't. But by the time the 2020 election rolled around, a majority of the American people had had enough of the orange-hued con man, and they voted him out. And Trump didn't want to go. He would never admit that he lost, and he fought like a sewer rat with a rented piece of pizza in his mouth to stay. And thus he would galvanize his followers, unleash a political firestorm, and change the course of our history as a country, as Representative Jimmy Raskin had told us in the latest January 6th hearing on Tuesday. Now, Trump is complicit in his attempt to overthrow the government. He ran where social media platforms like Twitter, at people like where Twitter was before he got removed. People that work for Trump said that they knew that he was amplifying calls for violence, and nothing was ever done. Many on Trump's staff knew that Trump had lost the election, and they did nothing to stop him from trying to stage a coup, and no one really stopped him. Cassidy Hutchinson, the aide of Mark Meadows, who would later offer bombshell testimony before the January 6th committee, had tweeted out, "The West Wing is unhinged." I never knew the West Wing to be hinged, and at least not while Trump was there. Now, more importantly, the proud pricks and the oath keepers knew that Trump wanted a big, bright, fiery show, a dramatic takeover, a rousing third act. It's time for the day of the rope. White revolution is the only solution, read one tweet, and cops don't have a standing if they're laying on the ground in a pool of their own blood, read another. Now, this is ironic. Ironically, the committee read that tweet in front of a packed house that included several of the officers injured and that were traumatized of the events by January 6th. Why don't we just kill them, or we need volunteers for the firing squad? Were tweets that were shared by those rioters. Is the 6D day? Is that why Trump wants everyone there? Asked another. Indeed he did. Mike Flynn, Rudy Kaludi, and Sidney Powell, whose videotaped testimony about sedition was casually offered between swigs of Diet Dr. Pepper, encouraged the riot, according to witnesses. In a 6-hour-long argument on December 18th that went from room to room in the White House, Kaludi accused those who recommended Trump end his fight of being pussies. Now, Judd Deere, the only member of the Trump press staff universally trusted by members of the press, testified that Trump was typically Trump that day, refusing to give in and acting as if he could, by sheer force of his gnarled ego, stay in office. He left the outside door to the Oval Office open so that he can bask in the glow of people shouting his name. Then on January 6th, Trump left the crowd in the ellipse know that he meant business. He showed up and encouraged them to storm the Capitol. He screamed, "Fight, fight, fight," as if he were a high school cheerleader. Now this was Trump at the height of his power. His 4 years of fascism culminated in a violent group assembled in our nation's capital that was set on destroying the rule of law and installing Trump as a dictator with powers to destroy our Constitution. 7 episodes now. The January 6th committee hearings have proved to be far better television than Trump ever created on The Apprentice, and a part of him no doubt loves the attention. Hell, he probably bathes in it. He's a pathetic hit. Now his niece, Mary Trump, had basically said this week that her uncle, for the first time in a long time, is truly afraid. She basically said that she's concerned. She's concerned that if anything will be done to him. Excuse me. Perhaps that fear is why he's tried to reach out to potential witnesses. Representative Liz Cheney had fired a shot across Trump's broad brow Tuesday afternoon, sorry. Basically warning him to not try to tamper any witnesses. She basically said that he had tried to call someone who was not yet testified. Congress, responding to Trump's own masterful manipulation of the media, basically they have learned a thing or two. Now, Raskin basically had said that Watergate was like a Cub Scout meeting compared to the Trump scandal that we're facing. And he's right. The Watergate hearings were campfire storytelling compared to the Stranger Things production of the Trump hearings. And hell, this production could win an Emmy. It's masterful, especially in the hands of Raskin. It's one of the best scripted live documentaries ever made, complete with cliffhangers and previews of the next exciting, terrifying, and eventful episode. All that's missing are the after-credit scenes. Maybe we'll see Trump in irons after the last hearing, but who the hell knows? And there are those who still fear that will never happen. Mark Meadows, it is reason, will eventually take the fall for Trump, but Liz Cheney is coming for Trump, and I wouldn't want to get in her damn way. While Mary Trump isn't a fan of the Cheney politics, she too says that her Uncle Donald has every fucking reason to be afraid. Now, Cheney is everything that Donald Trump isn't. She's an intelligent person, immune to his charms and threats, and who has the facts at her side as she pursues the mind flayer. Now, Trump is a 76-year-old con man. Cheney reminded us not an impressionable child, and he is responsible for his own actions and choices, and Trump cannot hide behind his minions. He knew the election wasn't stolen. No rational or sane man could ignore that fact and come to another conclusion. And then it concludes that Trump cannot escape by being willfully blinded. You'll never need to convince me or the many disinterested third-party observers who went to the Capitol January 6th to witness that sad day in our history. Pip, I don't know if I would feel safer in Ukraine during a war, but I knew where the enemy was, and I could protect myself. None of us knew who among those at the Capitol was a friend or a foe that day. Now, Donald Trump led, encouraged, and planned that insurrection and loved watching it. It was his magnum opus, his final area. his version of Beethoven's Ode to Joy. He relished in it. It was theater for Trump as his entire life has been. Now, taking a page from Donald's playbook, the January 6th committee is using this theater to expose his wretchedness. Now, Donald Trump is a garbage can brought to life. He is the bottom of a dumpster fire that hasn't been cleaned for a lifetime. He sprung to life as a rancid pestilence. He appeals to our darker angels. He gives people permission to be as horrible as they want to be. The January 6 hearings are slowly backing him into a corner, connecting the dots and exposing his vicious, seditious activities for the anti-democratic crap they truly are. Now, Trump is a fascist. Trump is a fucking liar. Trump is fucking dangerous. Ultimately, Trump is a fucking traitor to the ideals enshrined in our Constitution. The seventh hearing on this fetid stench leaves just one important question unanswered. Will the Department of Justice indict Trump, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Jeffrey Clark, Sidney Powell, and many others? It's obvious that Liz Cheney, by mentioning the DOJ at the close of these week's hearings, believes that indictments are forthcoming, and there are those who still doubt and who truly believe that Attorney General Merrick Garland is not up to the task. But the 32 federal lawmakers that we've spoken with, or that the person has spoken with since Tuesday, all believe that Trump's indictment will be coming. It has to, or this means nothing, and as a country, we are done, one said. So how did Trump respond on Wednesday? He sent out emails promoting his Trump commemorative golf balls, along with one encouraging his sycophants to buy authentic Trump Ultra Maggot shirts for just $45. The grip goes on, so stay tuned for the next exciting episode. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube, and for just a little as a few bucks a month. Your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.